He has been documenting the events of Ferguson via Twitter and is the founder and co-editor of the Ferguson Protester newsletter. He is an activist, organizer, and educator, focusing primarily on issues impacting children, youth, and families. Everybody give it up for DeRay.
I'm humbled to be here. I remember when we started protesting in August. We did it because we knew what was happening was wrong. We never thought that people would join us. We knew people were watching. We didn't know that the unrest was spread across the country. So every time I go to a new city or a new place, it's really humbling to know that people not only stood with us by retweeting us, but people also stood in their streets. So I appreciate the invitation. I'm humbled to be here. I remember in that moment, it was like, this is just not the America I know. This is like not, I never imagined this would be the America I experienced. It was in that moment that I became a protester. I went to St. Louis to be a witness, to see what was happening, and in that moment I became a protester.
Can you elaborate on that and sort of this expectation for America and what we're actually seeing out of America?
So I knew that the police, I knew that our communities had been terrorized by many people and definitely institutions for a long time. It's why I worked in education. I used to be a 6th grade math teacher. I did youth and community engagement stuff when I was younger. But I just didn't know the police were killing people like that. I just didn't, well, I would have said that the police killing people was sort of like measles. It pops up, somebody sort of fixes it, and then it goes away. I didn't know it was like the plague until I went to St. Louis. On the culture, or like the policy, I think about the civil rights movement is that like desegregation of the voting rights act gave people more access, gave them more access to a still racist system. That racism didn't, there were no sort of like kinks in the armor of racism, people just had more access to it. And if we are about like dismantling racism, we will also have to be hearts and minds, and that will necessarily be a part of the fight, and that's where people like poets come in, right? Like I feel like I'm around the movement all day long, but even last night I was touched. I was like, this is important to me. Like the only bad thing about last night was that everybody couldn't see it, and that matters. That it is not normal that we tell the truth with each other yet.
Hi, I'm Carmen. I'm from Seattle and Washington. One question that I have for you, I think when there's a new killing that was published in the media that you see on the news or on the newspaper that you see, and people get really hyped up about it and interested and really want to like make a change and help out, but after a few weeks, like it slips out of the news, it slips out the media, and people don't care anymore, and people aren't interested in trying to make a change. How do you keep people interested and involved in trying to help a movement because the issues are still going on?
There isn't necessarily a good way to do it. I also think that like the reality is that black people don't have PTSD because like we're not post-Trump, right? We're in the Trump. So this is like, and because of that, people like are struggling. People feel like they don't want to talk about death all day because they need to keep going on with their life, right? And like I think we need to like expand the way that we create spaces for people to acknowledge the trauma without being traumatized. And we haven't yet figured that out. But the question you pose is a real question.
Hi, I'm KJ. I too am from Indiana, and I own my own business. I work with 7th and 8th graders. So one thing that I'm trying to understand is one, I understand that we can't shield them from things. So how do I teach them not to be as concerned with the end, but more with the now?
Yeah, I think that with kids, I taught in school and I'd say by the time kids are in 6th grade, that they are experiencing the traumas of the world already, right? Like younger than that, they're experiencing it too, but definitely middle school. And I think so much of what we can do as like people who create space for young people is like allow them to tell stories and validate the act of storytelling and validate the story. And like and use their lived experience as a way to tease out these other truths for them. As I worry so much what we do as educators is we try and say like the world is crazy here, like when they know that they've experienced racism, they just don't know, they might not have the language for it. They know what's happening for kids, but they might not have the language for it. And I think that so much of it can be like creating space where they can talk about it and that maybe help them with the language. And then sort of like give these truths in that moment, which is definitely harder, takes more time, all of those things, but could be actually the way to get them to grow as opposed to you telling them how they should feel.